Welcome to the fourth lesson of this course. Today, we will be covering Unit 4 of Book 1. In this unit, we are going to cover more lab equipment. So just like the previous two units, we will talk about these lab equipment and how they're used, and we'll talk about vocabulary related to these lab equipment. All right, let us begin. For our first warm-up of this unit, I want you guys to read the following passage. So this Lab Equipment 3, Lab Suppliers Inc. Products passage over here. And once you finish reading this passage, I want you guys to answer these two questions over here. The first one, what are some different measuring equipment used in a lab? And the second one, what devices are used to combine and separate materials in a lab? So pause this video, read the passage, and answer these two questions based on what you read in the passage. And after you're done, resume the video and we'll go through the answers together. Here are the answers. Okay, for the first one, what are some different measuring equipment used in the lab? So according to the passage, we have an analytical balance, which is used to precisely measure mass. So when you're dealing with small amount of mass and you want the exact amount, an analytical balance is the best tool for the job. Next, we have pH meters, which are used to measure acidity or alkalinity. All right, so this is dealing with the acidity of a chemical or a solution. And next, a thermometer, which is used to measure temperature, right? So how many degrees Celsius, Fahrenheit. And lastly, a spectrophotometer, which is used to measure light intensity. So this one is related to the measurement of light. So those are the answers for the first one. For the second one, what devices are used to combine and separate materials in a lab? According to the passage, we have an orbital shaker, which helps us combine liquids. And lastly, we have a centrifuge, which helps separate materials or liquids, right? So the orbital shaker combines things while the centrifuge separates them. Those are the answers for the warm-up, first warm-up. Now we're moving on. For the next warm-up activity, I want you guys to read the following statements and determine whether or not they are true or false based on the passage that we read earlier. All right. So we have these three statements down here. The first one says, each incubation oven accommodates multiple temperature scales. True or false? The company recently released a new spectrophotometer. True or false? And lastly, the listing advertises a centrifuge that the company will release soon. True or false? All right. So I want you guys to pause this video, reread the passage, and answer and tell whether each of these statements are true or false. And when you're done, resume the video and we'll go through the answers together. Here are the answers. For the first one, each incubation oven accommodates multiple temperature scales. The answer to this one is true. They mentioned that every incubation oven gives you precise temperature control. They give you Fahrenheit, Celsius, and Kelvin measurements. So those are the three different multiple temperature scales. All right. Next, the company recently released a new spectrophotometer. True or false? The answer to this one is true. They mentioned right here, try our new spectrophotometer in the meter section, right? So that means that they released a new one. Lastly, the listing advertises a centrifuge that the company will release soon. True or false? The answer to this one is false. They didn't mention any new releases or any news about a new centrifuge. They talked about centrifuges, but they don't mention about a new one. Okay, so those are the answers. We're moving on. For our first vocab section of this unit, I want you guys to match the following words or phrases with the following definitions, right? So we got microscope, thermometer, spectrophotometer, desiccator, balance, and and centrifuge. For each of these words, I want you guys to match with the definitions over here. So pause the video, try matching them yourselves first. And once you're done, resume the video and we'll go through the answers and definitions together. Here are the answers. For the first one, a device that makes objects appear larger. We call that one a microscope. So a microscope helps us see cells and very small minerals by zooming into them and giving us a detailed picture on what they look like. Next, a tool that is used to measure temperature. We use a thermometer. So a thermometer can tell us the Celsius or Fahrenheit of something. Next one, a device that spins substances very quickly. We call that one a centrifuge. So as we mentioned earlier, a centrifuge spins things very quickly for the purpose of separating different materials. Next, a device that determines the mass of something. We call that a balance. So we find the mass of something by putting them on the balance and see what number the balance shows. Next one, a tool for measuring the intensity of light. We call that one a spectrophotometer. That one's straightforward. It's just to measure the intensity of light. And lastly, a sealable container used to preserve items from moisture. We call that one a desiccator. So that one is to help make sure that the objects remain dry. And yeah, so those are the answers for this section. Moving on. For the next vocabulary segment, I want you guys to match the following headings with the following equipment, right? So we have changing substances, measuring substances, and viewing substances. So which of these headings or purposes belong to which of these equipment? Orbital shaker, microscope, pH meter, analytical balance, and incubation oven. I want you guys to pause the video and try matching these headings with the correct equipment. And after that, resume the video and we'll go through the answers together. Here are the answers. For the orbital shaker, we use that to change substances. So as we talked about earlier, the orbital shaker mixes two different substances together by shaking them, right? So by doing that, by mixing them, we're changing the form of those substances from one form to another by mixing them together. Next, the microscope is used for viewing substances. As we talked about earlier, the microscope helps us see very small things like cells or very small materials. Next, the pH meter is used for measuring substances. So we measure the acidity or the alkalinity of different liquids. Next, the analytical balance is used for measuring substances. So we use it to measure mass accurately of an object. And lastly, the incubation oven is used to change substances. So they change substances by heating them up. Okay. So those are the correct headings for each of the following equipment. We're now moving on to the next segment. For our first listening activity of this unit, I want you guys to listen to the audio clip of the passage that we've been using for our warm-up. After you listen to the audio clip, I want you guys to fill in the blank of this sentence in the bottom here. An analytical balance is more precise than other types of balances and yields much more blank measurements of blank. Okay, so listen to the audio clip and then fill in the blanks. Pause after you listen to the audio clip, pause the video, fill in the blanks yourselves. And once you're done, resume the video for the answers. All right. Here is the audio clip.
Unit 4, Lab Equipment 3, Exercise 5, page 11. Lab Suppliers Incorporated. Products. Bacterial growth. Our incubation oven gives you precise temperature control. Every built-in digital thermometer displays Fahrenheit, Celsius, and Kelvin measurements. For controlled cooling, keep moisture out with a desiccator. Balances. Lab suppliers' analytical balances provide the most accurate mass measurements available. Magnification. Lab Suppliers has an extensive lineup of microscopes and microscope supplies. No lab is complete without them. Meters. Try our new spectrophotometer. It recognizes small light changes that previous models couldn't detect. For acidity tests, you won't find a better pH meter anywhere. Motion devices. Do you need to mix materials? Check out our orbital shakers. Or maybe you're trying to separate them. In that case, you need a centrifuge.
All right, that was the audio clip. Now, here are the answers. An analytical balance is more precise than other types of balances and yields much more accurate measurements of mass. Okay, so those are the answers. Moving on. For the next listening segment, I want you guys to listen to a conversation between a manager and a scientist. Afterwards, you choose the correct answers for the following two questions. The first one asks, what is the conversation mostly about? And you choose one of these answers. And the next one, what will the man likely do next? And then you choose one of these answers, okay? So here is the audio clip.
Exercises 6 and 7, page 11.
Dr. Henderson, I'm about to place an order for lab supplies. Do you need anything?
Yes, actually, I could sure use a new balance.
What's wrong with the one you have?
It's pretty old. The newer analytical balances are more precise.
Okay, I'll get one then. What else do you need?
Oh, I need to measure brightness levels for my next experiment.
And we don't have a spectrophotometer, do we? I'll order one.
Great. I think that's about all I need. Thanks.
Okay, so if you need to listen to the audio clip again, rewind this video to the point where I began the audio clip. Otherwise, pause the video and choose the answers for the following questions. And when you're done, resume the video and we'll go through the answers together. Here are the answers. What is the conversation mostly about? The conversation is mostly about which new equipment the lab needs. So the man was asking the woman what she wants for new lab equipment. She mentions that she would like the new analytical balance and that she would like a spectrophotometer, right? The next question, what will the man likely do next? The answer for this one is that he will place an order for lab equipment. So earlier he asked the woman what she wants for new lab equipment. And obviously after she tells him what she wanted, after she told him what she wanted, he's going to order the new equipment that she requested. Okay, so those are the answers. Moving on. All right, for the next listening segment, I want you guys to listen to the conversation again. And once you finish listening, I want you guys to pause the video and fill in the blanks based on what you heard in the audio clip. And after you finish filling in the blanks, resume the video and we'll go through the answers together. All right. Here's the audio clip.
Exercises 6 and 7, page 11.
Dr. Henderson, I'm about to place an order for lab supplies. Do you need anything?
Yes, actually, I could sure use a new balance.
What's wrong with the one you have?
It's pretty old. The newer analytical balances are more precise.
Okay, I'll get one then. What else do you need?
Oh, I need to measure brightness levels for my next experiment.
And we don't have a spectrophotometer, do we? I'll order one.
Great. I think that's about all I need. Thanks.
All right, if you need to listen to that audio clip again, rewind this video to the point where I began the clip. Okay. Here are the answers. Dr. Henderson, I'm about to, Place an order for lab supplies. Do you need anything? Yes, actually. I could sure use a New Balance. What's wrong with the one you have? What's wrong with the one you have? It's pretty old. The newer analytical balances are more precise. Okay, I'll get one then. What else do you need? Oh, I need to measure brightness levels for my next experiment. And we don't have a spectrophotometer, do we? I'll order one. Great. I think that's about all I need. Thanks. All right, so those are the answers. Moving on. For the speaking activity, I want you guys to select which of the following sentences belong in which of the following blanks in the conversation. So we have these three sentences here. I need to measure acidity levels for my next experiment. I could sure use a new incubation oven, and its thermometer only displays Fahrenheit. Okay, so I want you guys to pause the video, figure out which sentence belongs where, and then practice this conversation either by yourself or with a partner. Once you're done with all of that, you can resume the video and we will go through the answers together. All right, so here's how the conversation goes. I'm about to place an order for lab supplies. Do you need anything? Yes, actually. I could sure use a new incubation oven. What's wrong with the one you have? Its thermometer only displays Fahrenheit. I always have to convert to Celsius or Kelvin. I'll get one then. What else do you need? I need to measure acidity levels for my next experiment. And we don't have a functional pH meter, do we? I'll order one. Okay, I hope you guys have the same answers. Moving on. For the writing segment of this unit, I want you guys to match which of the following words or phrases belong to which of these blanks. One of these words can be used twice, okay? So after you fill in the blanks using these words, spectrophotometer, light measurements, analytical balance, and precise, you need to figure out whether or not the item that they're talking about, the equipment, is a new item or a replacement based on the reason for request. So after you fill in the blanks, you circle whether or not the equipment requested is a new item or a replacement. So I want you guys to pause this video, try it out yourselves first, and when you're done, resume the video and we'll go through the answers together. Here are the answers. New equipment requested, an analytical balance. This is a replacement. The reason for request, the current balance is not very precise, okay? So because the current one is not very good, not very accurate, precise, they need to replace it with a new one, a new analytical balance. So that's why they have to replace the item. Next, new equipment requested, spectrophotometer. This is a new item. The reason for request, a new experiment will require light measurements, and the lab does not currently have a spectrophotometer. Now, because the lab does not have one, because they don't own a spectrophotometer before, they need a new item. So it's not replacing an old item with a new one. They just outright buy a new spectrophotometer because they don't have one before. So therefore, we write this is a new item. Okay, so those are the answers. Moving on. For the next writing segment, you're going to do the same thing as before. You're going to fill in the blanks based on using the given words or phrases. So we have cracked, solution, damaged, thermometer, heat, and microscope, okay? So you're going to fill in the blanks using these words. And once you finish filling the blanks, you have to select whether or not this is a new item or a replacement based on the reason for request. So just like before, do the same thing here. So try it out yourselves first, and once you're done, we'll go through the answers together. Here are the answers. New equipment requested, a thermometer. This is a new item. The reason for request, the next experiment will measure heat from a solution, and the lab does not currently have a way to measure temperature. Because the lab doesn't have a way to measure temperature, they need a thermometer, a new lab equipment, right? So therefore, we say new item over here. Next, new equipment requested, microscope. This is a replacement. The reason for request, the previous equipment was damaged when it fell on the ground and the lens cracked. So because this time the previous equipment was damaged due to an accident when it fell on the ground, they need to replace it. They need to replace the old equipment with a new one. So they replaced an old microscope with a new microscope. So we write this is a replacement. Okay, those are the answers. And that's it for the writing segment. All right, so that was the last activity for this unit. If you guys need additional help, you will be provided with a PowerPoint that has the definitions of the vocabulary we covered for this unit, as well as the Thai word equivalent for each of the vocabulary. I'll see you guys next time for the next lesson.